So thank you. Hi, I'm Chris Hunsicker. I'm with Norfolk Southern Railroad. I struggle with this room to try to make sure I'm talking to everybody here and getting a hold of everybody. So I'm here tonight to talk about next steps, what we're doing here with the derailment response and the restoration of the community. We're talking about the pending coming restoration of water to the ditches. We've been collecting water on the site since very early on the response. We're making a lot of progress here. These are good positive milestones in our remediation and our restoration of the site, and we're getting ready to soon, not immediately, soon, next few weeks or so, start the process to return water flow to the ditches like it did before. This is part of an iterative process on the site. We're taking care of certain things at a time. This is one of the next steps that is coming here. So really grateful for the opportunity to talk to everybody here. We've been talking to a lot of regulators. We've been talking to a lot of folks in the community, and we're getting a lot of questions. And, we want to make this an opportunity for us to share what our plans are, what we're looking to have happen here soon, but also to answer questions because, what we do, you guys don't always get to see all that's happening. So that's, when you have questions, please ask. I'm here to try to answer that stuff for you. So we're talking about putting water in the ditches. So I'm going to start off with what this isn't. All the water that we've been collecting in the big blue tanks, all the water that's in the frac tanks, all the pipes that we've been collecting for all the past few months, none of that goes in the ditches, all right? That's still being shipped off it's still being tested, still being shipped off to disposal facilities that are approved by US and Ohio EPA. None of that changes here. We're going to continue to collect water as we work through this whole process here. So that's going to stay the same as we work through here. What it's going to be is, again, this is an approach to discreetly clear areas of the site and return them back to what they were before. And I've got some visuals that I'll talk to here in a little bit here. So across the site and all these locations, we've dug up the contamination along the tracks and a lot of the areas that are, around it. We're doing a lot of testing. Our Appendix E work, what we're calling our double check, is to make sure what we dug up, did we catch everything there? After we go through that process, we have our sampling results. We take that over to the agencies. They review it and they approve it, say, yes, our investigation has shown that we did our remediation. We're not seeing derailment impacts there. After we do that, we're going to test the water that flows into those drainage areas. And that's what I'm showing over here on the far left poster. So, we've got a discrete area where, on the far left one, we've got, ND1. We've got an area where we've dug up the impacted materials. As we move along, we're not there yet, but as we move along, we're going to collect the water that flows in that drainage area to that ditch. We'll test that. We're going to get those sample results. We've got specific guidelines and requirements from OEPA, what that water has to meet for water quality. We'll get that data in, we're going to review it, we'll pull together a package, we'll give that to the regulators, they're going to review it, and only if then, at that point, will it be okay for that water to be re-released as it flowed, normally. We've got controls here that's collecting that water now. We would stop that collection, and that discrete portion of the site would be let go. As I show up on the map, it's not everything all at once. It's going to be, that decision area at a time. We're not here yet. We're looking for, probably several weeks here before we get going here. We're waiting for lab results to get cleared on the soils for a bunch of area. Once that's cleared, then we collect the water and then we move forward. So we're not even at the point where we're ready to collect the water yet. That takes a week or so to get the results validated. We turn that in the regulators and then they approve what we have there. And then the water's free to go. So everyone still with me there? Okay. So that's the process. Again, it's a step-by-step process. So I know one of the questions is, what is it going to look like? We're not looking to do this all at once. We've got our site 60-some acres. The drainage area where it goes to at the end of the tracks where it connects to Sulphur Run, it's like 1,300 acres. We're not going to suddenly take all the water on the site and it all gets going. It's going to be a little bit at a time. I've got ND1 over there. That's probably going to be the first one when we get through this process. That little drainage area will add and be able to flow to the site. Then maybe it's ND2. maybe it's SC1. It's going to be a step-by-step process here. So it's going to be a little bit at a time. And the reason for that is, we've got to clear each spot, one at a time, make sure it's good. We're also being very sensitive to the flows into Sulphur Run. If you look at it's tough to tell, that second one, the one in the middle, you can see the flows of what we expect to see when we release these areas or let them flow as they used to be. We've got a 1, little dot over there, a 1. There's a blue area on the top, a little red. It's not a great view. But if we were, and we're not, if we were going to take the whole of our site and we got it all cleared and let it go at once, that would be about 4.5% of the flow that normally flows through Sulphur Run in that area. So it's not a huge impact. The north part is, I think, 1.8%, maybe 3% for the south part if we did it all that in one shot. Again, we're going to do this in small components as areas get cleared and let them flow through. What that's going to kind of look like, a visual here, and this is from last week on the third one. The top 2 pictures, it's tough to, I'm going to walk over because it's real tough to see. So we had a dry spell a lot of last week. So up in here, that's the little drips, intermittent drips are here. This is what we had flowing through that ND1 section into the site. All right, this is what the stream looked like. So you've got that kind of drip going into that type of flow. Thursday, it rained a lot. We had a lot of rain on the site where, this was water going. So this is what the flow increased to on Thursday when we had a lot of rain, but this is how big the creek was. So, to give you an idea how much flow, or really how little flow is in each one of these areas, as opposed to the big flow that's going through the stream. So, we're being very, very cognizant of, what those flows are going to do, and we don't just want to release them all at once. So, all right. Really that's, we've got that. And also, right now, we have the freshwater bypass system, which is up on the east of that ND3 over there. The water that's clean water from east of the site that we pump around that. We know, people have probably seen when those pumps kick in, when we got a lot of flow or a lot of water stored in that fire suppression pond, those pumps kick in and they send a bunch of water downstream. As this process moves along, we start restoring ND1, 2, 3, that's going to smooth out. We're not going to need that surge system anymore for the storms. That's going to flow as it did before, kind of through the site. It's going to have that whole section of track to kind of even out whatever flow. So whenever, we do have storms that go through the area, you're not going to have that surge that we had from the bypass before. It's just going to kind of flow like it did before. So that'll help smooth all those out, not see the big slugs going through the creeks that we see now. All right. So that's going to happen next. And really, one of the concerns that we've heard a lot is, what is this going to do to the areas downstream of the site? We're going to be releasing or restoring flow in this area. What's it going to do to the areas downstream, Sulphur Run and Leslie Run, going through there? What we're going to see there is, as the whole progression of the response, we're seeing conditions in the creeks improve. All of them, we're seeing the areas of impacts, they're improving. It's not as intense. We're not seeing as high sheen scores that we talked about last week. We're seeing those scores get better. We're seeing the extent get better. We're shrinking that areas of what we're seeing on the site. So we're seeing improvements there. There is more stream work coming. We've been working together with the agencies. We've submitted a plan that's still under review. So that work to do the additional mitigation work in the streams, that is coming here probably in the next few weeks or so. Once we get approval here to do that, a lot of this ditch restoration work will probably be timed about the same time as that happens. While that work's ongoing and all the controls that work in, with that restoration work that'll be happening, that'll probably be at the same time we start adding or restoring flow to the site down there before. So that'll be happening about the same time. And the last thing I really want to say is we've had a lot of storms, through the site during the whole time, the whole time we've been out here. Big thunderstorms are coming through. Those are flowing through the stream like they normally would. In response to those storms, we're not seeing those storms making materials migrate downstream. So the additional flow, which we think is going to be very small, not a significant change in the amount of flow here, even with big flow, we're not seeing that affect the areas that we're, that we still need work to be done with them. So that's the main points I want to share. Again, we've been listening to regulators, the community, but this is stuff that, we see from our point of view. We know you all guys all have different points of view, and that's kind of really want to open this up and answer your questions. I can't read your minds. I don't know all your concerns, but that's why I'm, here tonight to try to answer some of these questions that you may have here. So that's kind of what I had to share. I don't know if you guys had anything else to add, but otherwise, I'd love to answer questions for you. Yes, sir.
So, what is the exact source for this water? Like, where does this water itself come from?
Oh, this is all stormwater. This is all rainwater that before the incident, this is all rainwater. It came down, hit the site, and flowed in there before. So this is all.
Getting it clear if it was Sulphur Run coming down, or if this is water that is strictly from that land out there that you guys are containing.
Yes, okay, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is all the water that whole 66 areas of our response site. This was all rain that was coming down there. When it was flowing before, it was hitting the ditches that are north and south of our tracks.
Correct.
That flow into Sulphur Run.
Yes.
We've been containing that for months now. This is the process. As we show those areas are clear, as we can show the water within those areas are clear, we would let that water flow as it used to go into Sulphur Run.
And these are basically the ditches that are north and south now.
Yes.
That have the pipe that's kind of laying,
Yes.
directing that water out.
Yes. Right now, a lot of those pipes are part of our collection systems that go into the blue tanks and things like that.
Okay.
There are a couple bypasses where we have clean water. We've got a bypass on Taggart that takes water from a storm drain and goes around the site on the south side. We've got a bypass on the north side around the lake. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, through the wetland state line lake. Yeah.
Yeah, because I've some people in the community ask, what exactly are those lines? What is that source? In the last couple of weeks talking, and so that answers that question, so thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Anybody else?
So Chris,
Oh, yes.
so are you going, I guess, let me get my directions right, I'm a woman. So you're going east, so you're gonna start at like SD1 and work your way back? Or you're not gonna be jumping around?
We probably are going to be jumping around. So right now we're looking at the ND1. Right now, just the way the site is set up and the way our clearances have been going. Remember, we got to do that soil check first, then the water check. We have more clearances of the soil checks on the north side of the tracks. That's just the way the lab results have worked and where we could get access and stuff. To answer your question, I wish I could tell you we would just be going in order and do whatever. In an ideal world, we would go ND1, 2, 3 and let that all go because it'd be easier. Same way on the south side, it'd be SS1, 2, 3, 4 because it would just be easier because I could open up a section, boom, boom, boom. Life isn't that easy. So ND1 is probably our first one. We're looking to get that one released first. We've got good soil results. We're waiting for everything to come together with that report. We'll get our water results. That is probably going to be our test case and let that one go. ND2 would be the easy one next there. That's probably where we're going to go. The SS1 is a storm drain where we saw some impacts early on, but we haven't seen anything for a while. We're waiting until we can clear that one. We've got that SD3 area, which is a big source of water for the site. That is one that, if we can get that one cleared, we would probably have that one, SD3, leapfrog, pipe it over SD2, so we could go out clear.
I got you. That's what
And
I'm
then,
trying to get.
yes, there are going to be times where, again, ideal world, we would just clear the ditch and it would all flow easily. It'll get to that eventually, but there may be spots where we clear this one here, we will put it through a clean pipe, it goes over the top, because we're not going to flow it over an area that's not been cleared yet. It's got to be cleared, then it'll go, and then once that area in the middle is cleared, we're going to restore that. After everything's cleared and we're flowing here, we're also going to do a formal restoration of the two ditches. Right now there might be some piping to get clean water bypassed like we're already doing now, but we already have, we put out an RFP for the whole restoration of North Ditch. We'll be lining it with riprap and rock and things like that because once we get it cleared, we don't want to have the water flow through there and now we've got a sediment issue. So we've got to make sure we restore that ditch so it's competent, so it's lined with rock and it doesn't erode and cause a sediment issue downstream. So that will happen here too.
Thank you.
Of course. Anybody else?
Any other questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
When you talk about clearing these ditches, does that mean you're dredging them?
No, we've already dug everything out of the ditches right now. And we've gotten our soil results that show these areas are clean and we're not seeing impacts from the derailment in the ditches. So what we need to do right now is our lab results have to get formally approved. And then once that's approved, then that takes care of the soil spot. So they've already been dug out.
Okay, what about further downstreams?
Downstream, we're gonna do some, mitigation work in the streams. Dredging hasn't been listed as an option right now. We're talking about some, washing, stream washing as we've done before. We're talking about some hand excavation. We're trying to avoid dredging because of the ecological impacts that go with that. However, if our responses, our remedial actions aren't sufficient to get us to where we need to be, like Andy talked about last week, we're gonna step this up. If tactic A doesn't work, well, we gotta go to B. We gotta go to C until we can take care of the issue down there.
Thank you.
Sure. Yes.
I'm sure that I'm a little bit confused, but this is not the same scenario where the village is thinking about receiving some of the clean wastewater into the storage system. It's a totally different scenario.
Totally different. Again, whatever water that we've collected and we continue to collect, that is being shipped off-site to other disposal facilities. None of that goes in the stream. So everything that's gone in a tank, that's being shipped
But that's
off-site.
a whole nother situation for another time.
Absolutely, not even connected to this at all. This is really getting to a point where I can show this discrete area doesn't have a soil impact, doesn't have a water impact, and I can just let that flow as it did before.
Good.
Yes,
Thank you.
absolutely.
That will not be happening. That's not even the thought. That's over, done with.
I see.
It's not even a discussion anymore, so. Yeah,
Postpone that.
yeah, forever. That's not even an option anymore, so.
I think I think people like to hear that. Good.
Anybody else?
Just one question.
Oh, yeah.
If we have a rainy spring, will that then slow down this process?
I don't think it will. We've been handling rainy season for a year now. So I don't think it will. The only times I think really, if we had a really heavy rain, the activities that we need to do, we can still do. The only time it comes up would be if someone's doing work in that stream. I think more when we do the mitigation work. If we've got real high water level, we don't want to put people in the stream, just from a health and safety, not exposure. I just don't want someone knocked off their feet while they're in a stream that's going real fast. So if we had a real high rainy situation, I would say probably, a day or two here or there. We're not looking long term. That's not going to affect us.
Thank you.
Sure.
Anybody else? All right, thank you, Chris.
Absolutely. If you guys have any questions, we are happy to come back and answer them. So thank you very much. Appreciate the opportunity.
Clerk's report.
Oh. Sorry, we touched on that just a little bit. We're still, we're still waiting for our plans to get approved. We're still looking at, I think we had April 1, no later than the start date on that. Once our plans are approved and, the weather's in good shape, we'll start on that work too.
Thank you.
Yep.
Chris, real quick, sorry,
Yeah.
keep jumping back.
No.
I guess it's more my question, maybe some people's questions that live in proximity of these areas that have been kind of postponed for the last year. Some of these ditches are rather deep, and they've been filled back. Is there any observation as to when the future of that water flows? About, before I guess it was kind of an organic disbursement of that water, over the years it's been that way. What about with digging some of these ditches, holding water in certain areas? Has that been a thought, or, has the remediation process now ensured that in the future, we're not gonna have these big retention areas along these ditches and flowing into people's yards and such?
Yes. So that's very much in our plan. So really, our plan, almost all the work we're doing here is restoring it to where it was before. The areas where where we may not restore it to where it was before is we've worked with a property owner and, hey, we've done something and we put in a parking lot. Well, if they want the parking lot, we're not gonna take it from them. You know, we'll leave it there. But if they don't want the parking lot, we're gonna pull it out. So the ditches are the same way. So the whole design for the north ditch and the south ditch is really, it's gonna look pretty much like it did before. So great point, thank you. You know, certainly behind the Strohecker building, it's a canyon. You know, it drops off and then it comes up by the track. That's not how it's gonna finish up, you know. There's gonna be a lot of places that were culverted. If they were culverted before, they'll probably be the same thing as they are now. If there was an open ditch, you know, it's gonna be a V-cut ditch. So it's not, there's gonna be a lot more restoration. It's not gonna have that big drop. That
Could be almost better than what it was before.
Probably. You know what, there are some areas that were, you know, I know pipes and culverts were undersized. As we're doing our design, we've made sure, hey, this is designed to, you know, what the current standard is at. You know, we saw that certainly around Pleasant Drive. You know, some of the culverts, like, hey, if we were gonna design that new, we couldn't design it the size it was. So we're designed it the size it should be. So that should flow to try to avoid, you know, flooding issues or backup issues in there.
Thank you for answering that.
Yeah, absolutely.